Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. Talking Grit is brought to you by the Monroe County Reporters, Monroe's top news source for police, fire, and community events.
Depot Street, truck boy intercept.
Follow them on Facebook, and for $2.99 a month, you can become a subscriber and get the news you crave even faster.
Welcome to Talking Grit, a Detroit Lions podcast. I'm Jason Harwood, and with me is Jacob Litton. Today, we are doing another edition of Pride Preview. As we have in the first 2 weeks of the season, we are going to feature an interview. This time, it's Bo Brack, Arizona Cardinals reporter and host of the PHNX Cardinals podcast. So Jacob and I have had a really good response with the first two interviews. Our goal was and still is to provide you with the information that only someone on the ground with the opposing team would have. We also like to have their perspective of our team, how it looks from the other side. Hopefully, we keep having good fortune with finding reporters and podcasters to work with us. And just like last week, we're going to start the beginning part before we hit the interview with a little background information on the Cardinals. And then we'll move into the interview. And then we'll do our keys to victory and break down the grit guarantee and our grit picks for the week. But first, before we do get into all that, a couple little bits of interesting news. First, let's start off with kind of a joke for today. If you want to laugh, Bill Belichick says on the latest podcast that Matt Patricia laid the groundwork for the Lions' success. What do you think about that, Jacob?
Hilarious. I screenshot that so I could try to send it to you. Just unbelievable. Obviously, Belichick has a close relationship with Matt Patricia. He's just trying to shout him out there. Yes, did Matt Patricia draft a couple offensive linemen? He got Ragnow and Decker. Yes. Are they core members of the team? Yes. His groundwork ends there. He took us, we were a playoff team. And then he took us and basically tanked us, trying to switch it around. Terrible years under Matt Patricia. He set us back, really. The only positive that came of that is that it led to us getting Dan Campbell. So for Belichick to say that, that was the groundwork was Matt Patricia's, that it really is hilarious. I don't see that at all. I mean, do you?
No, not at all. I mean, just a couple of other things that he was responsible for. He's got Hank Fraley and Ben Johnson here. They were in lower level positions and moved their, way up. But so you can argue, yeah, he set the foundation for, a good offensive mind. And, he certainly did strengthen our offensive line. But that's where it ends right there. He basically severed our relationship with Stafford because Stafford wasn't going to go through another regime change. So, I mean, I guess you could argue that he, tanked the team so bad that, we traded Stafford for Goff and all those picks. So, yeah, if we want to go down that rabbit hole, maybe that Patricia didn't anything. I mean, I think Patricia showed exactly who he was when he took over an Eagles defense and made it worse last year. And then they just caused that slide. And, how Sirianni kept his job after setting Patricia up as that defensive coordinator. I don't know.
Yeah. Matt Patricia's really good at blowing everything up. He's the demolition man. Let me come in and just wreck everything. And then you guys will, be able to have some success afterward.
Yeah. So just wanted to give everybody something to laugh about because I just like Jacob said, hilarious. That's a great adjective to describe the situation because there's no way that Matt Patricia is any shape, way, or form responsible for this team.
Any of the success we have.
No, I mean, this team was so devoid of talent when Brad Holmes took over that, it's comical. He tanked them so bad that we got good draft picks, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
we missed on a lot of those draft picks.
We did. It did before we got Brad Holmes, for sure. So, other cool news that came out today was we got 3 Lions in the top 10 for jersey sales. You want to tell the people where we show up in that list?
Yeah. So I was surprised that we had 3 in the top 10. But I don't think it's too hard to guess what 3 are in the top 10. We have Hutchinson was number 3 on the list, Amon-Ra St. Brown number 4, and then Jahmyr Gibbs number 8. 3 of our highest profile players. No surprises that they're at the top of our jersey sales. But I mean, that's really cool to be in the top 10 like that. I feel like, from my perspective, that's probably a lot. We're getting a lot more respect. There's also a lot more Lions fans that are new Lions fans that have not been around forever. So they probably don't have too many of those old jerseys hanging up. They need the new.
I was going to say New Jerseys probably contribute a little bit to this.
Right.
Some people are rebuying jerseys and stuff like that, but still, I mean, to be three of the top 10, that's pretty awesome. All right, let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals. Just like last week where we started off with the draft, we'll kick off with some of the draft picks that Arizona had. They had so many draft picks. We're not going to cover all of them.
Right.
But we'll cover the most important ones. So, Jacob, you want to hit that off?
Yes. As you said, they had a lot of draft picks on here. A few of them practice squad, a few people injured and aren't on the team right now. Just to go with the top half of the list, these are some of the impact players that they have. Obviously, the biggest one was their first pick, number 4 overall, Marvin Harrison Jr. Then they had later in the first round, they had an edge defender, Darius Robinson out of Missouri. He's actually on IR right now. Second round pick, cornerback Max Melton. And then in the third round, they got running back Trey Benson, offensive tackle Isaiah Adams, and then tight end Tip Raymond. And most of these guys are guys we are going to see get some playing time. Trey Benson is backing up James Conner, but he's been getting some carries. And they got a lot of new additions to the team through the draft. I'm sure a lot of good players that they want to develop, but some of these guys are getting good playing time right now.
Yep, they had a lot of draft picks, so it's nice to have that ammo to reload. But obviously it starts with Marvin Harrison Jr. Unbelievable prospect coming out, and just going to be a dangerous weapon as he proved in week 2 for sure.
Right.
So as far as free agents and re-signings, the Cardinals, the main 2 that they moved on from was Marquise Hollywood Brown and Rondell Moore. Free agent acquisitions they got was Jonah Williams, offensive lineman, although he's on the IR right now. Evan Brown, who's familiar to Lions fans, offensive lineman, former Lion, is there. Chris Moore, Carice Tonga, Leo Nichols, Sean Murphy Bunning, the cornerback, and Mac Wilson, linebacker, are also they're all free agents that they got. They have a wide receiver, Zay Jones. He's suspended right now, so he's off for the beginning part of the season. Not any huge names. They're mostly, going with draft, building it up that way. It seems like the Cardinals are taking that approach. As far as injuries, there's a fair amount of people on the IR. Jacob, you want to take over that Cardinal injury report?
Yeah, I'll go through them real quick. We mentioned already the rookie Darius Robinson. They also have a rookie Christian Jones is on IR. Cornerback Elijah Jones, offensive lineman Carter O'Donnell. Most of these are guys that are like role players or rookies, but they do have, as you mentioned, Jonah Williams was their starting offensive tackle, and he was supposed to be a huge contributor for them this year, and now he finds himself on IR after only one game. And then their linebacker, BJ Ojulari, who played in every game last year. He didn't start, but he did play in every game. He was a solid player for them, is also going to be on IR. They do have a lot of people on IR, but as far as their injury report for this week, not a lot going on there. They have listed on the injury report Xavier Weaver, their wide receiver, offensive lineman Will Hernandez. They're both listed on the injury report, but they had a full practice today. And then defensive lineman Dante Stills was a limited practice. The last couple of opponents for us have had kind of a busier injury report or just more high-profile names that they were going to be missing. Doesn't look like that's the case right now with the Cardinals.
Yeah, our injury report looks quite different.
Terrible.
Right now. Pretty lengthy. So, we already know who's on the IR for Lions. No changes there this week. However, Anzalone is out with a concussion. No practice. We don't know the status on him yet. He's got to clear, I think, by Friday to be able to get back on there. But if you saw that hit last week that he took from Barnes, you could understand why he's out. So I'm planning on him not playing, but maybe he surprises and comes back. But just someone that's going to be hitting like that, You wonder if he comes back with a guardian cap or something like that. Just protect in the middle. Terran Arnold is out today with an illness. Did not practice. Graham Glasgow did not practice. He's out with a knee injury. If he is still out with an ankle Achilles injury, did not practice. And it's Rakestraw did not practice the hamstring that he tweaked during warmups. Dan Campbell said like 4 minutes before they have to turn in the active inactive list, he tweaked his hamstring. So kind of unfortunate there. Kirby Joseph and Isaiah Williams were both limited practice today. But good news is Amon-Ra St. Brown listed with an injury with the quad, but full practice today. Marcus Davenport with his groin injury that he received in week 1 was a full practice today. So that's a good sign that, those two practice in full. So not what I want to see on the rest of the list. Hopefully, Terrion, the illness isn't going to keep him out. It didn't seem like it when Dan talked about it in the press conference. That's just the gist I got. But, Graham being out could hurt too, for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see later in the week how many of these guys, try to give it a go if they get limited practices in or if they upgraded to full. Amon-Ra on his podcast really said the quad's kind of just, he got hit with a helmet, had a contusion pretty much right away. Later in the game when he had to come out, that was actually because of cramping. He had cramping in both legs and his calves. He said it was hard to even make it to the sideline. And they're over there with massage gun trying to, get those cramps worked out. And there was just no way for him to come back into the game. So that, while it looked scary, had really nothing to do with what this injury is. And he seems confident that he's going to be fine, that he's going to play as he, had a full practice today.
Yeah, I think he probably got that initial injury when he dived like right before the half to get that. And, he was trying to knife his way into the end zone. When you see someone go down with a leg injury, especially a wide receiver, you get really worried. So
yes,
it's important that he comes back. So we can go over the week 2 results. Arizona won their game pretty convincing fashion. They scored like touchdowns on their first 3 possessions. We're up 21-0 on a Rams team that we played week 1 and just kind of made them look silly. Now the Rams team has been decimated by injuries and got even more decimated in that game, losing Cooper Kupp and Jonah Jackson's out now too. They faced a slightly different team than what we faced, but kudos to them. They just went out and put on a show, which is not what we wanted to see as Lions fans after coming off, our loss last week. And then just, the afternoon games, you see the team you're facing next just, score at will.
Yeah, right. No, that was concerning. We had a tough overtime victory against this Rams team. And then the week later, the Cardinals are just giving it to them right away. 21-0, deep passes, But like you said, different, because the injuries and everything, it was a different team, different circumstances. So, any given Sunday, every week's different. They jumped out early and it was hard for the Rams to try to catch up anyway.
Yeah, I think that's one of those things when you jump out early like that and you can just make a team one-dimensional. That just basically, really limited the Rams running game. And I think Blake Corum ended up leading the team in rushing over Kyron Williams that game. Which is interesting.
Yeah, not by much. Corum had 28 yards.
Yeah.
Kyron Williams had 25.
Still, they weren't rushing. They just had to keep passing.
Well, right.
Week 1, Arizona played Buffalo, lost the game 34-28. However, they were up 17-3 at one point. They played solid the first 2 weeks. This is not going to be a gimme game. This is going to be a tough battle the Lions have on their hands. Week 1, Marvin Harrison didn't really do anything. The talk was, should they play him in the preseason, all this stuff. And then he put all that to bed. And first quarter goes, 4 for 130 and then, 2 touchdowns. Let's end that talk right now.
Yeah, right.
All right, I'm going to kick off for the interview. It's Bo Brack with the PHNX Cardinals podcast. Had a lot of good information to tell us about the Cardinals. And so we'll hit that up and we'll be back with you on the other side. It's time that we introduce Bo Brack from the PHNX Cardinals podcast. He's a reporter for them. we're lucky to have him. He's a busy guy. He just got off the line with Brian Baldinger, so he's making time for us small timers here. But first of all, thank you for coming on the show. So how long have you been working with that podcast? And, did it start with the rooting for the Cardinals, or is this just something that's just come about for you?
Yeah, I've been doing this podcast, PHNX Cardinals, this is our third season now, and it's been great, just kind of covering it from, the reporting standpoint to merging it kind of with the fan experience and kind of getting a 360 view of this team, with the opportunity to get inside the locker room, talk to players, talk to coaches, but then at the same time, hang out with the people that care about this team the most. So we've been doing that now, our third season. The light at the end of the tunnel, I think we can start to see it now after some tough, thin years. I've been covering this team on and off for about 10 years, and it just kind of became just a part of my life. And I just was trying to figure out, after doing some sports talk radio, how I could continue to do that. And it was via the podcast streets, and it's been great. And, I think that there was a need for people wanting to know more about the Cardinals, and it wasn't there here. So we were able to provide that for them.
That's good. I mean, we all need good reporters and good conversation about our favorite football teams, right? I mean, that's important.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We have to start with Marvin Harrison Jr. How has he looked through the offseason? Do fans have any problems with the off-the-field decisions? Are you able to buy his jersey yet? Obviously, he had a really good week 2. Week 1 was kind of, iffy, but he bounced back.
Mm-hmm.
Just overall, what are the thoughts on Marvin Harrison Jr.?
Yeah, I mean, outside of the inability to buy the jersey, that's still an issue. I think they finally found somebody that was going to be the arbiter to that case between Fanatics and Marvin Harrison Jr. and his representation about a deal that was struck back when he was in college at Ohio State. And he felt like basically he'd outgrown that deal. That's kind of been the holdup as far as his jersey becoming available to Cardinals fans. But, he signed his rookie deal. He's got, the name, image, likeness type of thing, all in place. Now it's just kind of getting this Fanatics kind of little saga, hopefully behind them shortly. But as far as the player, the prospect that came in from the Buckeyes, back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving seasons, didn't have to work out because all the tape he put on film. They're playing and starring in Ohio State. He's matched the hype. I mean, he's a guy that was, known for his legendary work ethic. Obviously, his father's got a bust in Canton, and he was the number 1 wide receiver for Peyton Manning for so long. Just wasn't blessed like Marvin Jr. is with this near 6'4" height. But he's matched that. He's put in the work, and I think the only thing that was missing in week 1 was the rapport with the starting quarterback. And the Cardinals, I think, worried a little bit for not playing their starters in the preseason. It probably would have benefited from that for them to develop a little bit of rhythm and timing, because this offense is so much predicated on that. But then, they were able to kind of knock off the rust a little bit and get going with a 4-catch, 130-yard, 2-touchdown performance in the first quarter, which oddly enough hadn't been done since, Marvin Sr. did it back in 1996. So, two performances, 1 dud, 1 absolute just huge, big performance by Marvin in the offense. And now we'll see what happens when they go up against a legitimate team that has, deep playoff aspirations in the Lions.
Yeah, that's the Lions. We're not used to, sorry, I had to pause for a second. We're not used to hearing all that stuff about us, the Lions.
Yeah, right.
Cardinals fans will probably feel that way too, I'm sure, at some point.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So when we think about the Cardinals, Marvin Harrison comes up, but obviously the other player that you think about is Kyler Murray. It's interesting because here in Michigan, we get the national perspective. We don't get, what Cardinals fans really feel about him. The national perspective, at least from our angle, is that he's a player that doesn't study, that doesn't work hard at his craft. What is your perspective of that, seeing him day in and day out? I mean, what is a Cardinals perspective on that?
Yeah, it's unfortunate because like the latter there, like the work ethic, he doesn't work hard, he doesn't study. That's all false. I mean, it was something that was made public, or it was a narrative that was created in an ugly, public negotiation for a quarterback contract from an organization that I don't think was ready to do that. It had never drafted and developed a quarterback and gotten to this point where they had to pay that type of money to that position. And I think that at that time, the general manager I don't know if it was the GM specifically, but there was just some really, brutal things said. There was the homework clause in the contract, which is a huge misstep for the organization. But I think Kyler Murray, the new regime, new GM, Monty Ossenfort, and head coach Jonathan Gannon have done a good job. They work very well together. They're in lockstep. And it was nice to see them empower Kyler Murray. And with that, he's done nothing but make them look good. Like by, being at the facility, first in, last out guy. Their teammates say that they don't think he ever leaves the facility. Like when he tore his ACL in 2022, he started just coming to the Cardinals facility and really hasn't left since. And you're seeing that's a product, that's shown up in his play to where not only these 10 games into this new offense, with those reps becomes, familiarity, comfortability, and, perfect quarterback rating last week with 3 touchdowns, 260 yards passing plus 60 yards on the ground. So, I think Kyler Murray's in the best spot he's ever been in. He's entering the prime of his career, and that big, $230.5 million extension's kicking in. So he's locked in here for, the future in the long term. So, he's a good spot. And it is unfortunate. Like even the previous week, the week where they lost to Buffalo, there was post-game quotes that were kind of misconstrued and they weren't given without full context, like saying, hey, Marvin Harrison Jr. only got 3 targets and 1 catch. That's not my job. What he was saying was, he defers to his offensive coordinator. His offensive coordinator wants him to find the open receiver and get him the football. And people wanted to say like, there's Kyler Murray just kicking his feet back and saying, hey, not my fault, somebody else's problem. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. And it's unfortunate because people pick up those storylines and they run with it. And he becomes a polarizing subject where I don't think it's necessarily fair.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they do, I think the full quote was he was talking about going through his reads. So going through your reads and, it's not my job to get the ball to him. And instead they just take that, not my job to get the ball, put that in bold letters, and there's your headline everywhere. Right. He does seem to get a lot of hate from the national media. So, us as outsiders, that's, the majority of what we're seeing. Right. Obviously, the play on the field has not been terrible. Last week, like you said, perfect rating. He did very well. He's definitely a threat.
It's so efficient. Yeah. He was, the first half of the game against the Bills, 16 for 19, touchdown pass. And then, this past week, 17 for 21, 3 touchdowns. He's running the scramble drill on a bunch of those plays, and it's looking, like vintage Kyler. So he's in a good spot. I mean, the biggest thing with him, I think, is it's not, what the national narrative is or, is he good enough? Because I think he is the health. Like this is a guy who hasn't played a full season since really 2020. And they want to keep him upright. They want to keep him, fully healthy because I think with that consistency, week in and week out, like we've seen teams that, even though they're year 2 of a rebuild, they can make some noise. Like look at Tampa last year, look at, Los Angeles, the Rams. I know they're falling apart now, but when they got consistent play from Stafford and crew, they made their way to the postseason last year. And I think that that's possible with a healthy Kyler Murray here in 2024.
It's gotta be a good feeling as a fan. Got to see a little light at the tunnel there. So today, Dan Campbell was asked, our head coach was asked about Buda Baker, said he's an issue. Let's talk about him a little bit. He had previously requested a trade, and all that kind of stuff. With the team kind of turning around, seeing some positives, do you expect, is that kind of dissipated and he's looking at his future here in Arizona, or what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting case because, what do we see this past offseason? Kind of NFL teams not prioritize big time safeties, right? Like we saw Justin Simmons, get released by the Broncos. We saw a couple guys exit organizations that they've made names for themselves. And certainly, Buda Baker, it's undeniable. The guy's been the heart and soul of this Cardinals defense since, he emerged out of Washington in 2017 and continues to play at a high level, had a great game, just kind of torpedoing around the defense for the Cardinals, making big stops, getting TFLs and being a force in the run game. But, I think it's not a premium position. He's in the final year of his deal. I don't think anything plays into him requesting a trade or anything like that. I think it's just, he's going to be 29 and he might be able to go, maximize his earning potential elsewhere, because I don't think that this is going to be a team that's going to spend a lot of money on a couple positions like inside linebacker or safety. They're going to focus on premium positions. And, if they can find a middle ground on that, then yeah, I think that both parties would be, up to keeping Buddha in town and retiring a Cardinal. But I think unfortunate, like the reality of the NFL business is that they're going to focus on premium positions and moving forward there. So I don't know. I think that's not going to be resolved until this offseason, but there's no animosity on either side of that between Buddha or the football club.
Would you see a situation where they would trade him before the trade deadline this year? Just if they weren't going to keep him.
No, I don't think that you would get enough value in return. Like I think Buddha, they understand that Buddha, like especially just his play, like he transcends his play. That it we haven't even seen, like, would you get a 3rd round pick for safety?
Yeah,
maybe, but like he doesn't take the football away. Like he didn't have any pass defense last year. He didn't have any pass breakups yet. It took him till year 4 to get his first pick. That's not his strength. So like, is a team willing to spend, a premium draft pick to get him? And like, if you're going to get a 4th or 5th round pick, I just don't think that outweighs the production you would get on the field and off the field.
Yeah, I agree with that
for sure.
All right, Jacob.
All right, moving on. So starting cornerback Starling Thomas is somebody that us as Lions fans are very familiar with.
Mm-hmm. He
was one of the final cuts at roster. We talked about that extensively, about whether we were going to keep him or not. Hopefully we're going to stash him on the practice squad. That didn't happen. The Cardinals took him from us.
Yeah.
He started 7 games last year, and it looks like now he's going to, he's starting this year. In your opinion, how do you think he's done?
I mean, considering, yeah, he was, cut from the, going from 90 to 53 in 2023. And then he gets onto a team that was in year 1 of a rebuild. The Cardinals had the luxury of picking up Star and then playing him significantly just out of necessity. Like there was a ton of growth from the former UAB player. Like, and he came in and was kind of under the radar because, they drafted Garrett Williams in the 3rd round in 2023. They drafted 2 corners in day 2 of the NFL draft in 2024. And you're like, okay, Starling Thomas is an afterthought. And he comes out and has a great training camp and outright wins that job over a 2nd round pick and Max Melton, who they're still excited about. You're going to see Melton number 16 in the secondary a lot on Sunday. But Star is somebody that continues to kind of fit the culture of this team. Has the respect of Gannon in defensive coordinator Nick Rollis. And I think he's somebody that they're excited about moving forward with. And, he'll hold on to that starting corner job. I mean, but he's going to have a tough time fighting off Melton, but he's a good, depth piece at the very least for the Arizona Cardinals.
He showed a lot of good flashes in the offseason for us last year. And he was a very, very tough, he may have been the final player that got cut. He was right there.
It was him between him and Stephen Gilmore, and we kept Stephen Gilmore on the inactive all season, and then we cut him this offseason. So now it's really looking like, we could have kept Starling, but it's hard to know. I mean, Starling's probably grown because he had the opportunity, right? I mean,
right. Does he develop as much? Right. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, could he have cracked that rotation last year? Probably not, but he definitely did here in Arizona, where there was so many opportunities.
Yeah, I think that some of these players just get that opportunity, and you got to take advantage of it, right? I mean, you get to start on a team that's facing a quarterback injury, and he took advantage of it. So good for him.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so what is a player that's on the Cardinals that a Lions fan, that we don't know about that we should be keeping an eye on Sunday?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's tough to really know outside of AZ, like what other fan bases know. I mean, the Kylers, the Marvs, Trey McBride because of his emergence in fantasy last year, 80 catches, 800 yards. Their second option in this offense. You got James Conner, who's got a touchdown in the last 7 straight games. Another guy, when he's healthy, he's just a beast. The offensive line is solid. But yeah, when I think you think of the other wide receivers, the other complements to this passing attack, like Michael Wilson, who's been slow to start. He was a guy in his rookie year, went over 500 yards receiving, looked like he was going to be one of Kyler's top options, sent a slow start to the season so far. And then Greg Dortch, who comes out of the slot, kind of your gadget player as well. Those are two guys on offense that I think, given opportunities that are kind of drying up because of the star power, I think can hurt opposing teams. And then on the defensive side, like the defensive front is relative unknowns across the board. Like Dennis Gardeck had 3 sacks last week, got to know about 45. And then Zaven Collins is, a bad, roughing the passer penalty call in week 1 of having, back-to-back weeks with sacks. So both those guys off the edge, I think, are somebody that we're interested at least to see how they'll go against that stout offensive line from Detroit.
Nice. Yeah, it hasn't been as stout as we'd like the first couple of games, but we're working towards it.
Yeah.
The next question we're going with is what most concerns you about the Detroit Lions? Coming from a Cardinals perspective, what concerns you most?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to look at the offensive side of the football. Where their struggles really were in week 1 against the Bills were slowing down Josh Allen in that offense. And then they hold, Stafford in a depleted offensive line to 10 points in week 2. Who they truly are, you hope it's at least somewhere in the middle. But the run game, like that was they were terrorized on the run and gashed all last season. Have they improved? Were they as good as they were this previous Sunday? This is going to be a good measuring stick. And is Amon-Ra going to play? Like Amon-Ra, if he's good to go, and you got that full complement of Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, we'll see. Can they generate enough pressure against Jared Goff, who's 8-1 career against the Cardinals? Can he stand back there and pick them apart like he's done, since his Ram days? So, I think all the real kind of concerns come on the defensive side of the football going up against Detroit.
Not against Aiden Hutchinson and his 4.5 sacks last.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that's I think that's always and like the Cardinals say, hey, that's top. If you're prioritizing it, that's where you want to kind of start.
Yeah.
For sure. Like the Cardinals are on Kelvin Beachum, who he made his 150th career start on Sunday. But, he's there. He was their primary swing guy. He was not their starting right tackle. If they shift Aiden Hutchinson over there, man, they're going to need some help. They drafted a kid out of Illinois in the 3rd round, Tip Ryman, who is a tight end with really no pass catching skills. He's in here to block. I wouldn't be surprised if he came in and tried to help a little bit with wherever Hutchinson is. So that absolutely is a huge area of concern, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So let's flip it. If you're the Cardinals, how would you attack this Lions team? Let's just start offensively, and then you can move on to defense if you got some ideas.
Yeah, I think that they can. The Cardinals really want to establish the run, and it gets overlooked because you've got Kyler, you got Marv, you got Trey in the passing game. But like I said, with James Conner and his ability, like when healthy, to he averaged over 5 yards per carry last season. He's on his way again this season. He's aging like a fine wine. Like if they can establish a run and create that true balance, like it takes Kyler Murray to the next level. Like they were primarily finding success in like 12 and 13 personnel, where you got 2-3 tight ends on the field and you're giving run looks. And then there's Kyler Murray dropping back to pass, making plays, and finding wide open receivers because you had, maybe some defensive player, a defensive package that they had too many big players in it. Like they didn't have enough guys that could cover. So I think that's where they can absolutely find success. That's where they've kind of buttered their bread since Drew Petzing came into this as their offensive coordinator, and Kyler Murray started to kind of find his way in this offense.
What about defensively? How are they going to utilize? Budda Baker comes out and plays in that run game and just stuffs it. Does that open them up for deep passing? Have you noticed? Because I also know that they don't like to go over the top. Yeah,
they don't. It doesn't. It hasn't. And that was like kind of something that Gannon brought from Philadelphia. They really are trying to keep everything in front of them. And even when they were, featured nobody in the defensive secondary last year outside of Budda and Jalen Thompson, like they didn't have anybody that could cover, and they still were not giving up the biggest plays. Most of it came in the run game last year. So I think if like James Cook and obviously Josh Allen, who's is built way different than most quarterbacks, but Jared Goff especially, being able to run, like his ability to extend plays, crush the Cardinals, where I think that they might be better set up to go against the quarterback, like Stafford, like Goff now this week. But can they generate the pressure? It's going to come down to pressure, right? Can they get it off the edge from, the guys like Gardeck and Zaven Collins enough to make Goff uncomfortable to be off his spot? And, what do you have, like 18 incompletions last week? So can you get a similar performance? I think that would bode very well for the Cardinals.
We're hoping that he doesn't pass 55 times a game, 55 like he did. That's not how the Lions are built. So not at all.
Right.
We know you're pressed for time. So before you go, we just have any predictions on this game. Doesn't have to be about the score. Doesn't have to be anything. It could be a player stat. Could be anything. So any predictions that you want to say about the game?
Man, that's it's on here early in the week. I think it's going to be a physical game. Like, these are two organizations, like you guys mentioned, that we've been tortured for so long. Like, they now have like a physical culture on both sides, both sidelines. And I think that you're going to see a lot of hard hits. You're going to see a lot more running than you would expect. And I think it's going to be a tight game. I do. Like, the Lions are favored by 3.5, but I think it's going to be more, just true, like a field goal wins this thing. And, I would lean towards Detroit, even though the Cardinals are coming off a big game, but I still think there's opportunity for them against this defense to maybe work out the kinks.
Yeah, it's different from our angle. I think Arizona's going to get there, is that you're counted on like as the team that, is a powerhouse or whatever. It's really weird to hear that from other, other teams. So we're still, kind of getting used to all that. But being a measuring stick type thing is,
right.
But we left Ford Field last week and we had lost, and then we're looking towards the next week, and then Cardinals are up 21-0 on the Rams, and a team that we had just played, and was, oh man, it's not.
There's no weeks off sometimes.
No,
like there's bad teams, right, in the league, and but it always feels like you have a tough start and you don't have any get right games. And I think that like the Cardinals last year were so bad, like personnel wise, that people viewed them as get right, and then they'd come to Arizona and they'd have to scratch and claw for a win. And now, with the good coaching that they were able to have last year, that they showed with an improved roster, I mean, we've already seen the benefit of that. So it should be, I wouldn't expect, nobody expects what we witnessed last week, where they just come out and blow the doors off the opposition. I would expect, just especially in the trenches, the Lions are going to be able to put up a better performance than the Rams.
Yeah, I just think Kyler Murray's that wild card. And you played against other teams that have running quarterbacks too. It's just demoralizing when you got to play perfectly and then they scoot out and they get the first down. I mean, Josh Allen did it, you guys, but it's a nice weapon. I mean, us from we got Jared Goff, he has run for 2 first downs in the first 2 games, so that's a record, I think. But
speed demon.
Yeah, exactly. No, he's never going to be called that. But he's got other talents. But yeah, it's hard. I mean, that's the wild card, is you can have a play played perfectly, and it just the play breaks down, and you got your quarterback that can run all over. So yeah, we're peace on our mind, that's for sure. Okay. All right. Welcome back, everybody. First, let's talk about some stats to be aware of. We talk about Kyler Murray and, that how efficient he has been running, but he hasn't thrown an interception this year yet. He is 73.1% completion percentage. He's like in the top 7 in the league in that. So Kyler Murray is getting it done with his arm too. So we have to, be very wary of that.
Absolutely. 428 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions right now. He does still, through 2 games, 116 rushing yards on only 10 attempts. And, you can't deny his scrambling ability. He creates more time by using those, legs of his, but he also is not afraid to tuck it and run when he sees the lane. as you can tell, he's averaging 11 yards every time he takes it past the line of scrimmage.
We just went through Baker. He's more dangerous than Baker. He's
Absolutely.
more shifty, faster, more twitchy than Baker. Lions are going to have to be disciplined in their lanes and covering their rushing lanes. And beyond that, you got James Conner back there can rush. When he's healthy, he's dangerous.
Absolutely. I mean, that's one of the main keys that you have is that you've got to be able to slow down the running back and then make Kyler throw. And, with these scrambling quarterbacks, it's funny because you got to keep the pressure on him, but you've got to keep the contain. And it's just one of those things where it's so hard for teams in the NFL to get that medium down where, yes, you're applying pressure to him, but you're not allowing him to get outside of you. And that's something that's obviously going to be one of the keys to victory this week is getting the pressure on him, but making him throw the ball from inside the pocket and under duress.
Yeah, well, I think you just want to make the quarterback feel uncomfortable. Want to feel that pressure. And how you do that, I think, for most quarterbacks is that pressure up the middle. If you can get, pressure, you don't allow them to step up. And then I think that's why it's also going to be important to have Davenport back because he can bull rush and crook collapse one side of the pocket. So, and then you push him to our most athletic end, which is going to be Hutchinson. Kyler Murray might be able to outrun him, but hopefully Hutch can get, have proper angles on it and be able to corral him in, our Mr. 4.5 sacks a game guy that we got over there.
Absolutely. Hopefully he adds a couple more. But yeah, Derek Barnes, this would be a good time to utilize him too. Just, being quicker, being on the outside like that. Obviously, if you have Davenport and DJ Reader, creating that pressure over there, he's got to run to Hutchinson's side. But if you've got Derek Barnes kind of playing back, keeping contained quarterback spy kind of thing, just preventing him from actually breaking loose, and that would be huge also.
I agree. I'm really sad about the Anzalone because this is where I think Anzalone would come in really, really handy in this game, just as his tackles for loss and just being able to, spy, because I think that he's very good at taking great angles and also providing smart play.
Yes.
He doesn't make mistakes. So that injury, I'm very worried about how that's going to work out. However, it's going to give an opportunity for Jack Campbell to come in and call plays and show, another dimension and show his growth.
Right. We hope anyway.
Yep. I mean, he's going to prove it.
Right. You got to show it. That's why he's here, right?
Exactly. First round pick. He's got to show the growth. I've noticed differences in his run game protection. He seems to not miss as many tackles this year Jack Campbell is in position better to stop the run game this year than I feel last year. Haven't seen too much in the coverage game yet, but it's kind of early. Hopefully Jack Campbell has one of those games because you'd really like to use his athleticism because with Kyler Murray back there, Campbell's an elite athlete, just his instincts and everything.
Yeah. That's where, as you were saying before with Anzalone, he knows when to pull the trigger. He knows where the lanes are. He knows exactly how to hit everything. If he doesn't play, that's huge. It's also huge because who do we have behind him that's going to slot into that spot and play that position the same way that he does? Because really, we don't have anybody who's going to be able to make up for that.
But I will say this: Jalen Reeves-Maybin can play linebacker, and he can. If you notice, like in the Tampa Bay playoff game last year, they utilized him a lot in that game, especially on third down and coverage. So, he's probably gonna get some more playing time if Anzalone doesn't go in there because we see Malcolm a lot this year. Seen Malcolm more this year than we saw him last year play for sure.
Yes, I don't know if we should have Malcolm chasing Kyler Murray around.
No,
but yes.
No, Malcolm cannot do that. I mean, Malcolm instincts are elite. His instincts are good, but he's deficient in his physical attributes. But you could still be a dominant player by I won't say he's dominant, but you could still be a very effective player by utilizing instincts and taking shortcuts and knowing where the play's going to go. So
whether they decide to slot him as a starter or if they're going to use Jalen Reeves-Maybin, either way, I mean, it's a huge opportunity for them to step up if Anzalone doesn't play.
Yep.
Because they have to have a good game for us to win.
Yes. It's going to be a challenge. That offense is no joke. So, and they're playing at a pretty high level right now. So, Jacob, any more stats that you have down there that you want
I
to be
do
aware
have
of?
some more stats here just to go over the Cardinals. Obviously, we're only 2 weeks into the season. Week 1 was the week that they lost, but they were up early. But interesting to point out, so week 1, Kyler Murray attempts 3 deep passes, and he does not complete any of them. James Conner was held to 50 yards rushing. Kyler Murray actually was the leading rusher on the team with, I think he had like 57 or something like that, 160 yards passing. And, that was a game they were up 17-3. And then, they just are not able to keep drives going, and they end up losing that game to Buffalo. Week 2, Kyler attempts 7 deep passes, and he hits 6 of them, 3 of which were touchdown passes. You got the 2 to Marvin Harrison. He had another deep one later in the game. It's just very important, like I said before, to get the pressure on him, but we cannot get beaten deep. And I think one of the things that happens is that he starts to scramble and starts to create more time. Anytime he gets on the outside with a couple extra seconds, that's really hard to contain coverage when you're playing as a cornerback. So that's where it's like we can't get beat, especially if we've got Terry on. Hopefully Rakestraw plays, but the rookies trying to be able to contain that, we've got to make sure we don't get beat deep. The second game, James Conner, 122 yards. Kyler has 266 passing yards and 3 touchdowns. So really, just looking at the stats kind of tell the tale of the game. Based on the game 1, they didn't have very good stats. They lost. Week 2, they had better stats, and they won. That wasn't the case for us because we had pretty good stats week 2, and we just didn't close out the job.
Yep, I agree. Another interesting stat that I discovered was versus the blitz and no blitz. A pretty stark difference in performance. So no blitz, the Kyler's 33 for 41. This is both games combined. 33 for 41 for 373 yards. And he had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. When he's blitzed, he's 5 for 11. So he's less than 50% completion percentage, 55 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So to me, I don't know if you necessarily need to blitz, but it shows the difference between getting some pressure and not getting pressure. So,
right.
Lions are, I know we're young in the back and we don't want to short them, but you could see Branch coming in blitz. We could, if he was healthy, we would have him doing that, but, definitely pulling Branch in, or maybe a Meek, does a corner blitz, something like that. I think we're going to have to apply pressure to him. So
we're going to have to make something up. Especially after hearing those stats, it sounds like pretty much all of his success has been had when they're not blitzing him. Yep. And teams probably don't try to blitz as much just because, of his speed threat and the ability. He's got a good tight end in Trey McBride. He's leading the team with 11 catches right now. Very good safety valve, and he's able to get open quickly.
Yep. It's a tough team, and that's what, Lions have to be prepared for that and play some tight man. They got corners that can play tight man. And if they're going to blitz and they know that they're going to have to get the ball out early, and then Kirby's going to have to be ready over the top for Marvin Harrison Jr. That's going to be a weapon to take him over the top.
Right. Maybe after last week, Kyler has a little more confidence in trying to throw that ball to Marvin Harrison, and maybe we're able to snatch one away there.
Yep, we've seen Kyler make those mistakes with the Lions before.
Right. Yes. He's prone to having that happen. So I actually have the stats here. So I don't know if you've been looking at the last couple of matchups between the Lions and Cardinals. Did you look into that at all?
No.
Before I ask you these questions?
No.
Just to throw a season out there, when do you think the last year was the Cardinals beat us?
Oh, that they beat us? Was that tie? They tied us that one Stafford
We did
game.
tie once. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was that one. I remember that game because Stafford had like a wide open touchdown, but Patricia called a timeout, and you could hear Stafford yelling, "Just trust me," or something like that. Oh God.
Right.
That was like one of the
iconic.
first games of the year. I'm not sure when did we.
So it was back in 2015 was the last time that they beat us. And they beat us pretty bad in 2015, but we actually played them 5 years in a row, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and we went 4-0 with that one tie. And that tie was, it was Matt Patricia's second year, and it was week 1 of the season that we ended up tying them there. But, the last time we played them was in 2021, so it was our first year with Dan Campbell. Mm-hmm. We were 2-11 going into that game, and they were 10-4. and we ended up coming out. We smoked them 30-12, and our leading rusher that game was Craig Reynolds with 112 yards.
Awarie got he got an interception on that game too, and I remember that was like an out. And Awarie he had a really nice season that first year, and we thought he was going to come back.
Yeah.
Fine year, and that didn't work out. But
It did not.
Another thing that's going to have to happen is get your hands up if we get pressure on him. Kyler's short. We had knock down some pass. Hopefully, get a tip pass for an interception. Quick change of possession that would be key. If you can't get in on him, get your hands up.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's go to our keys of victory. All right. First thing is, can we contain Kyler Murray's running game? We have to keep him under 50 yards of rushing. That's my goal. So you're not going to be able to stop him from running. He's going to squirt out and get a couple first downs, and but we need to keep him under 50 yards rushing. And I feel if we do that, we're putting ourselves in a pretty good position to win.
Yeah, that's best case scenario if you can hold him, a quarterback like that, less than 50 yards rushing. Because like we said before, he's if he's going to take off, that he's got an open lane or open enough where he thinks he's probably going to be getting 8 to 10 yards each time he takes off.
Right. Yep. All right. What you got, Jacob?
So one of mine also pertains to rushing, but I think it's just, stopping the running backs, holding James Conner and making Kyler Murray beat us with his arm. Like I pointed out in week 1, James Conner did not have a very good game, was not able to create much of a threat on the ground, and it really hurt the offense as a whole. And then you have week 2 when they were ahead by a lot, so maybe that had something to do with it anyway, but he was definitely more effective at running the ball week 2, and that's just kind of the name of the game. If you have success running the ball, it's easier for your offense to work, and we are a pretty good run defense. I know that, but I think that's got to be a key to victory, is just slowing him down and containing that rush.
Mine what you're saying kind of tails into my next one is we need to keep them at a reasonable third down percentage. They are number 1 in the league right now at converting third downs. I think they're like 58% or something like that. Compared to last week, we kept Tampa Bay at 20%. Part of getting out on third down is creating third and longs. And so if you stop, like you said, if you stop their rushing game, don't allow James Conner to get 3 or 4 yards on first down and another 3 or 4 yards, and then all of a sudden you're looking at 3rd and 3. And Kyler Murray is extremely dangerous because it's hard to keep him from rushing for 3 yards if he's going to really want to do that. So you want to really pigeonhole him into longer distances so that, we can key his rush and we can get those blitzes in. Because, if we're going to blitz, we're going to have to blitz smart. We're going to have push out the front so he can't just escape out the front. And if he's going to escape out the back, we're going to make him run the long way so we can have time for our linebackers to catch up to him.
Absolutely.
All right. What you got next there, Jacob?
Well, this kind of pertains into last week, but we've got to finish in the red zone. We can't have another game like that where we're moving the ball consistently. We're getting down there. We spend all day on their half of the field, and we only come away with 1 touchdown. You're just not going to win football games like that. Even if you only make it to the red zone 4 times, if you hit 2 or 3 out of those 4, then you have success. To go down there 7 times and only hit 1, that doesn't cut it. And I think that everyone on the Lions knows that. We're determined to, perform better, especially in the red zone this week. I'm interested to see the play calling and the execution in the red zone.
Yeah, it's got to start with we got to run Demo more down there. That
Absolutely,
was my opinion. That was the fault of the game plan last week. I know that they had Vita Vea at the beginning, but once that changed, don't you think, hey, we're going to attack this? We're going to attack the middle of the field, and we're just going to put Demo in there. That's something I didn't understand from last week. Looking back on it, we had plenty of opportunity to get down there, and one of the reasons why I felt like we kept having trouble or drives getting killed is that we kept having 3rd and long because we would get we had the plays where we lose 3 yards because we're trying to go to the outside, and then we get a 5-yard gain, and then all of a sudden it's 3rd and 8. We shouldn't let the other team dictate what we are. We should be able to dictate to them what they're going to, what we want to do to them. And that's to dominate. So, like I think we talked about Demo was only in like 30% of snaps or something like that. That can't happen, especially in the red zone. We need to just, utilize our dominant offensive line and just, push the ball. And, a lot of our red zone trips, you could argue, hey, we started on the 20. A couple of times we started on the 10, so you got a first and goal at the 10. It's tougher. But I remember one of those plays, David Montgomery ran for like 7 or 8 yards down there. And, I just feel like we could have just held our will a little bit longer in that game. All we needed was score one of those touchdowns on the missed opportunities. So you're right. It's converting in the red zone, and I think it starts with running the ball and making a commitment to that.
Yeah.
I think Tim Patrick's going to end up being, by the end of the year, he's going to have a few touchdowns down there, and he's going to take over that Josh Reynolds role. And just a big body that can, he's got a huge catch radius. He can box out the cornerback. So I don't know if he's going to be ready this week, but in the future, that's what I'm looking at, a big target down there for him.
Yeah, I think, what also made Josh Reynolds was so good is that how long he's played with Jared Goff and how well they knew each other, and they both knew the offense, and just, that just worked so well. So Tim Patrick obviously is going to take some time to build that timing and get everything down. And just him, being able to trust him, on choice routes or, in the red zone, especially, like he's going to find the holes and know which route and where to find it. Yeah, it's just going to take time for them to work on. And obviously we didn't get a training camp with him.
Right.
We didn't get him until just a couple weeks ago. So it's a learning experience. Yep. To speak on what you said about David Montgomery, though, you're 100% right. And I just feel like at the end of the game, in the overtime game where they gave it to Demo and let him just take over, basically. He was running all over him. He didn't get that chance here at the end, at the end of the game like that, where he potentially could have taken over. So, yeah, it's interesting that he didn't get more carries there. I don't know. I know we already talked about it before, but your quarterback just shouldn't be throwing the ball 55 times in a one-possession game. We weren't down by, last time we did that was against Baltimore. We were down by 30. Obviously, you got to do something. You got to, you're stuck because of the game flow. You're stuck throwing the ball. That wasn't the case this time. And we just continued to throw it, even though, yes, we were having some success. We were getting down there, but then we mixed in some runs in the red zone and it just wasn't working. And when we did try to run, we were running outside. We weren't running right at them, especially with Vita Vea out.
Yeah, I think the part of it is that, we had played this team twice before and we beat them both the same way, mostly by dominating. Jared Goff was having, really good games against them and they threw a lot. So they just tried to do the same thing. But for whatever reason, that they were able to, to really clamp down in crucial situations. But that's what I'm thinking. When they got down there, you gotta impose your will and just take the heart out of that other team. Because if we'd have done that a couple times early on, it'd have been a totally different game. And then Hutch would have had a chance for having more sacks because Baker would have been stuck, having to chuck it down the field. I hope they use it as a learning lesson.
I feel like we're going to. It just was, it was just a bad week.
No, it was. We've been top 5 of red zone the last couple of years. Do I think all of a sudden we're going to be one of the worst in the league? No, not at all. It's just, it's just the way it's worked out the first, 2 weeks. We'll get it worked out. I have utmost confidence in Ben Johnson, the offense, to get that done. All right. Let's get to Grit Picks.
Grit Picks.
All right. Before we go on with our picks this week, let's review what happened in week 2. Jacob and I both went 1-2. The Dolphins and the Eagles, who we picked, lost. Eagles seemingly had that game in hand, but decided to give it away. Darius Slay, former Lion, says, "It's on me, guys. Can't let a guy get wide open like that." And yeah, our one win was Houston over Chicago. And Caleb Williams' story in Chicago is playing out like a lot of new quarterback stories in Chicago. Not the greatest, so not shedding a tear over it either. So
no, not the best start, and happy to see it.
I saw a really funny meme today, Jacob, when I was on Reddit or something. It said like Caleb Williams says, I wonder, he goes, if he's going to throw more touchdowns than I have bathrooms in my house. So far, it's 0-2.
Nice. I remember that with Russell
I got
Wilson.
a good chuckle out of that, so I thought that was really funny. But
That is good.
yeah. So
I did not see the Bills smoking the Dolphins like that. I thought that was going to be a really good game.
I thought so too. A-Chain played really good, and and then the scary Tua situation.
Yeah,
Just
right.
wow. How's JJ doing with that's his favorite team? How's he?
Yeah, he's a little concerned for the future and concerned about Tua. He was happy to hear that Tua is not considering retirement right now, though. But
Yeah. Wow.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know. Like, first of all, he's got to know to not go head first. I mean, he has a concussion problem.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. Wonder if he's going to come back with a guardian cap. I mean, at some point, he's going to have to do something to protect himself.
You'd think he should.
It just looks scary with his hand cramping up. Like it just that's scary. So
It's just not good.
I hope that whatever he decides is best for him and it works out. But that's a scary situation. All right, so let's move into week 3. There's actually going to be 4 games to pick this week because there's 2 Monday night games. First game is Patriots and Jets. So Aaron Rodgers on, national TV. Surprise, surprise. Who you got in this one, Jacob?
I went back and forth on this one, but I am going to take the Jets at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Jets on this one too. Although Patriots win, I won't be sad.
Yeah, I hope the Patriots pull it out. Yeah. No.
All right. Next on Sunday Night Football, we got Chiefs at Falcons. So Falcons on national TV again. They follow up Monday Night Football with Sunday Night Football. I'm going upset city. I'm going Falcons over Chiefs. I think they're going to play some bully ball with Bijan, and I think that's their keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands. So I'm gonna say the Falcons on this one.
I think you just don't want to be wrong about your prediction because they don't look so hot right now. Yeah, I'm going Chiefs.
Yeah, I figured
the Falcons were 2 yards, one Saquon drop away from being 0-2, and they should have deserved that. They're still new team. They're still trying to figure it out. Maybe they're going to be better later on. I still, I don't think it's going to be this week. I think the Chiefs are going to take it to them.
Yeah. Their Chiefs are tough, but I'm gonna go with the Falcons.
The Chiefs, they've just lost Isaiah Pacheco too. He's a really big part having that running back in there. So if they have to rely on Mahomes more to throw the ball, make your offense one-dimensional. Even if you have Patrick Mahomes, it's going to be hard to pull anything off.
Yeah, I just think if you're the Falcons, man, you really just utilize Bijan and hopefully you can, just play clock management and keep it out of Patrick Mahomes' hand, and hopefully you force an error and you can keep it up. I mean, Kirk Cousins is going to have to up his play for sure, and he's not someone you'd have confidence on primetime television. But I'm going with the Falcons despite all that.
Hey, he's fine in a 2-minute drill when the defense is playing 15 yards off, right?
Yeah.
We saw that.
Pitch and catch. Yes, exactly. Just that, I'll never understand that. We were talking about that today at work, right? I mean, that was a good conversation. It's like, why do you give someone a 15-yard out, and then you're basically just guaranteeing them to walk down the field? And I mean, I'd rather just have the one error play where they go over the top on you rather than, just letting them walk down the field and giving them, outside of a Hail Mary chance. They're, all of a sudden they're in the 20 in the red zone, and that makes it much easier.
Right. And you're just spotting them the first 40, 50 yards. Yeah, makes no sense.
So, all right. First Monday Night Football game, Jaguar at Bills. Who you got on this one?
I'm going to be taking the Bills in this one, especially after how they looked last week, and the Jaguars have been kind of up and down already. Doesn't look like they're improving much. You hope that Trevor Lawrence is going to take the next step. I don't think that he has. The Bills are going to be at home. I feel like the Bills are going to get it done here.
Yeah, I think the Bills are going to win too, but I also feel like the Jaguars might just have that one game that they don't turn over the ball. Like ETN seems to always fumble the ball at critical situations. He did last week again. And, if you can just hold on to the ball, they might have a shot, but I'm going to take the Bills at home. Last game is Commanders. How they're getting a Monday night game, I don't really know. But Commanders at Bengals, I am going with the Bengals on this one. Joe Burrow's going to get the win.
Yeah, I like Daniels. I like the Commanders quarterback, but I think that the Bengals are definitely going to win this game, especially coming off how last week went.
All right. That's our picks for the week. Now let's get on to the Grit Guarantee.
It's time for the Grit Guarantee.
Are you ready?
All right, Jacob, you led off the last one. I'll lead off this one. And this one, Jared Goff, if he has a rough game, he usually comes back and plays pretty solid. I'm going to go ahead and say he throws 2 touchdowns in this game. That's my guarantee of the week.
I think it's a safe guarantee. I think you're trying to play it safe again.
Well, he's thrown 1 in the first 2 games combined to 3 interceptions. So I'm going to have the at least even set up and gets, 3 touchdowns with 3 interceptions.
All right. I'm going bold again. I'm not going to pick Stonehands to get an interception this time, but I'm going bold again. I'm going to say we have 100% red zone touchdown percentage.
Ooh, wow.
I think every time we get in the red zone, we're punching it in.
All right. Well, hopefully it's more than one time.
Right.
Not...
I hope so
right.
too. Hey, maybe there's some deep passes and we don't even have to get in the red zone.
Yeah.
But when we're in the red zone, we're scoring.
All right.
Touchdown percentage 100%.
I hope that's true, because that would be a very good key to the game, because as we talked earlier. So, all right. I like it. 100% touchdown rate. I like it. All right, Jacob. I'm going to be amiss if we don't talk about our Tigers just a tad bit at the end here. Okay. It's a super exciting time, this playoff time. And, we had this conversation earlier at work, and I think it rings true that this Tiger team shows resemblance to the Lions team of 2 years ago, where started out poorly and then just went on an awesome streak, tried to make the playoffs, didn't get it. We're hoping the Tigers actually make the playoffs. I just want to say we're huge Tiger fans along with Lions fans, and I'm really hoping that we pull this off in the last couple weeks. It'd be great for Detroit to have, leading into the Red Wings, and the Red Wings were expecting good things from them too. So it'd be really nice to see another team another Detroit sport make the playoffs.
Yes. We want the city to have success, and it's just an awesome time when the teams are playing well. Red Wings were one opponent's loss away from making the playoff, and now we have the Tigers that are, it's going to be a photo finish here, and we're hot right now, man. They're just fun to watch, and it's awesome that they're fun to watch this late into September when the last couple of years it's been the opposite. It's been hard to watch.
Yep. Yeah, you just instantly start tuning into Lions. So yeah. Go Tigers! I'm super excited about it. As we're recording right now, they're up 4-2 in the 8th. So.
And the Twins lost.
And the Twins lost in the bottom of the 10th when they were up by 2 runs, and then the Guardians came back and scored 3 runs. So
Orioles lost too.
Yeah, this is all lining up really good for Detroit. So, all right, for Jacob, I'm Jason. Go Lions.